Hey everyone, Angelo here, homeless filmmaker in LA. I've been in my car for about 18 months now. And I know this sounds fake, like what I'm gonna say happened, but I swear, like the events as I described them happened. First of all, I would not even want to make this up. Like, it's beneath me. I don't desire to at all. And if I were to make up a story, first of all, it would be a lot more like interesting than what I'm going to tell you, because really nothing much happens in the story. But also, I would just tell you, look, here's a funny story I made up, or like, I wrote and I want to say. So the other day, I was parked in my car, and a guy walks up a few feet behind it and starts puking. And he's just puking and puking endlessly. And I don't even think anything of it. I've seen so much crazy stuff around here. And really, I mean, it happens. People puke. Then he gets on the phone and he starts confessing all this stuff. And here's basically how it went. He said, I don't know who he was talking to, but he said, I'm all coked out. He's like, I'm all coked out and I had a 40. And listen, if I die, please, I just want you to know I love you. I did a pound of coke, and I have a 45, meaning a pistol, and I'm in a gang. And if I have to blast someone here, like whatever happens, I love you. And if I die, smoke a big blunt at my funeral. He's going on and on, confessing all this grandiose stuff. Now, I don't know much about cocaine, but I doubt you can do a pound of it. I don't know how someone could be standing or alive if you do that much, or if you could even be conscious enough to do that much. That just seems absurd. Drinking a gallon of water is hard. So I don't see how you could, but whatever. And he just keeps repeating himself on and on. Now, meanwhile, when he starts saying the gang stuff and the pistol stuff, and he may have to, kill someone, I'm like, holy shit. First of all, it sounds like ridiculous, grandiose thoughts when you're high and drunk. And I've never had a 40. Like, I don't even know exactly, like, what kind of beer is that. It seems disgusting. It seems gross. Like, whenever I've seen the bottles, laying around and stuff, I'm like, that just seems like this cheap swill I would never touch. But he's saying this stuff, so I'm like, oh, shit. Like, this is legit making me nervous. Like, I didn't think he had a gun on him, because he just seemed like it seemed like there was nowhere he would have hid it with his clothes on. I could clearly see it's not like he was wearing baggy clothes or something to cover up where he'd be holding a gun. But he's saying, I'm all coked up, man, like if I might die out here, if I die I die, whatever, I love you. So at first I thought, okay, I'm leaving. But I'm like, I was also thinking, again, I'm thinking, like, first of all, it's scary. I just don't want to be around someone like that. They're not in the right frame of mind. But also, I'm like, this guy, like, he's probably not doing some mission for his gang or something when he's this high and drunk. So I start to drive away, but I'm like, I only just drive a little bit down the road, and I stop, and I walk out, and I'm like, if he does something dangerous, like, I want to stay way back, but I want to be watching, so at least if if I need to warn someone nearby, like, hey, just stay away, like, he's clear. If I saw him pulling out a gun, I would let people know, like, hey, just stay away or something. I see him standing around with some friends, and he's in this, like, tight space where it's like he's all fenced in and stuff, and I see a group of guys walk around one side of this, like, fenced in, almost like a little alley, and then another group of guys. I'm like, oh shit, he's like, they're gonna, like, attack him or something. They just talked. They were his friends. So they just stood around talking there, and they walked away. That's it. That's one part of the story. The other part, so like I said, nothing happened. I wouldn't make that up. Like, I wouldn't make up such a boring story, but I thought it was funny that he said he did a pound of coke. That is so ridiculous. The other thing is, as I was walking by, some old guy says to me, hey, how are you doing? I thought, oh, good, this is a perfect excuse to stand around and not look like I'm staring at him and just talk to this guy, this homeless guy there. And the guy was really nice. He was pretty sharp, and he didn't look it, but he said he was 80 years old. He was born in 1939. He was telling me how he was in the Korean War. He joined the army at 17. He was a little bit forgetful, like he was repeating this stuff again and again, but it wasn't like hard to follow, or like he wasn't like, he didn't have that much trouble following me when we were talking. He had a bottle of vodka with him, and he kept asking me, "You drink?" And I said, "No, I'm good." And he kept asking me how old I am, but I was just asking him about his life, and he was talking to me about it. I said, "Well, how long were you in Korea? Did they give you proper gear for the cold there? Because I've heard stories, about soldiers freezing there and stuff." And he had stuff to say, and it was funny. He would remember the first part of a word, and he would ask me to help him finish the word. He's like, "I was a paratrooper." I think he said 82nd Airborne. And he's like, "We jumped out, we released," he acted it out, miming the parachute, and it released the, what do you call it? I said, the parachute? He's like, "The thing up there, the canopy?" He's like, "You got it." He's like, "I was in the 82nd Airborne, but you're telling me about it." And it went on like that. Other words he couldn't remember, and he was saying, he was asking me to say for him, and he said, "Did I tell you how old I was?" I said, "Yeah." "You're 80. And he kept saying, like, "I was a soldier, And he was talking about how it was funny. He was saying he's from, I'm trying to remember now, Chicago, I think? Because he talked about a lot of places he lived. But yeah, he grew up in Chicago, he said. And how he joined the army at 17, and he had to get his mom to, I guess, sign to let him join because he was under 18. And he was in for 3 years, and he left, and his dad was in World War II, and his uncles fought in wars. But anyways, it was funny. He was saying, he's like, "Now, where are you from?" I said, "Virginia." He's like, "Where were you born?" "I was born in D.C. And he's like, "Oh, I've been there." And he's like, "You notice how," and this was a tangent of his, but he's like, "You notice how, like, you're from Virginia. I'm from Chicago. We're here in L.A." And he's like, "But we can both understand each other. Now, see, what's that?" I'm like, "Well, I'm sure there's some historical reason, the English came and colonized it, and spread the language." And he's like, "But you see, we didn't have to do any special training. You understand me just like you're from Chicago, and I understand you just like I'm from," I don't think he said it quite that sharply, because again, he kept forgetting where I was from. And he kept repeating to me that he was from Chicago. But he said, like, "You understand me and I understand you." And even though I'm from different, I was born in 1939. I'm 80 years old. And I said, "Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's how language goes." But anyways, he kept going on about that and the Great Lakes there. And he's like, "What's that place?" Oh, this was another one. He's like, "What's that place? It's like above Chicago." I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Above the Great Lakes, they go into there." And I was guessing states at first. I said, "I don't know, Minnesota." He's like, "No, that's not it." I forget what other state I said. And then he's like, no, that place up north. And I said, "Oh, Canada?" He's like, "That's it." And he forgot like 2 or 3 times Canada. Anyways, we ended up talking for like 45 minutes, and it was interesting because it's the first person I've had a full-length conversation with in person. Basically, I actually talked to another guy I was editing videos for, but first full-length conversation I've had like that, at least with someone new that I've met in a while, and or since the quarantine, basically. I've talked to my mom on the phone and maybe other people I've talked to other people on the phone, and he said, he's homeless around here, but he's like, he's having a good time. He says he can stay on the base, like veterans can stay if they pay and if they're homeless, I guess. I didn't totally follow everything he was saying. I don't know how true it all was. But, so, I was, I had those, supposed gang member or whatever out the corner of my eye, but I'm like, I'm not worried about them. They're just standing around doing nothing. And the guy was just, coked out of his mind. But the guy was, saying how, what else? He was mentioning that, I'm trying to remember, about the veterans thing, staying on base. But he was kind of jumping around in the story. I'm like, so where do you stay now? He's like, "No, I don't stay here. I'm from Chicago." No, I'm like, "I know, but you came to L.A. He said he's spent a lot of time in L.A. or something. That's why he came back here recently. And I was asking about where he sleeps. He said they give you a private room at a homeless shelter, like on the military base. I was confused I couldn't keep straight what he was saying. And he was taking sips of vodka and saying, "You drink?" And but he also said he sleeps around here. He's like, yeah, right down the street. I can show you. I say, I don't need you to show me. But he said, I said, do people mess with you when you sleep around here and stuff? And I talked about problems I've had sleeping around here. And he's like, people don't see me. Because I was in the army, you know. He's like, I was a soldier, so I know how to be hidden. And it was funny. At one point, I was saying something to him, and he's like, Tonto, understand. I'm like, oh, yes. I was like, the Lone Ranger got through, and he was laughing. That's funny. I remember the Lone Ranger from when I was a kid. I don't think I watched it much. I think I knew more about it because my dad talked about it, because it was popular when he was younger. And I remember, of course, the Lone Ranger theme song, you know, the William Tell Overture from the show. But anyways, yeah, we just talked for a while, and he said he had a weapon and he'll protect himself if he has to, but he's like, I'd rather talk to a youngster and warn him than hurt him. And even if I hurt him, like, I'd rather hit him in the leg or something, like shoot him or whatever. But I don't think he had a gun on him, because I saw everything he had. He didn't have much. And so I don't know about all that, but he was like in good shape for 80. And again, his face didn't show that he was 80, and he had a full head of hair. And anyways, I said, hey, watch my back here sometime, and I'll watch your back. And because, you know, I've been like, you know, somebody threw a brick at me here. Somebody was trying to run up on me the other day. And I told him about my car crash. He was shocked by that. You know, I told him my dad's buried at Arlington Cemetery. He said his dad's buried at just a family cemetery. Anyways, yeah, so that's the story. Like I said, I would not make this up. First of all, it's beneath me to. And if I made up a story, I would just say, like, what do you think of this story? Check this out. Here's a tale for you. And also, if I made it up, it wouldn't be that uneventful, where nothing happened. It's just weird how this weird stuff keeps happening around me. But it's not really that crazy, you know? You think crazy stories like, oh, big deal. A guy was high, and he was drunk and puking. And then I met another guy who may have been a little drunk, but he was pretty with it. He didn't really seem that drunk. But some drunk people do tolerate it well. So anyways, that's a funny story. There you go.